Mars, the god of motivation, change, desire, conflict, war, separation, and endings by cutting away, is moving into the sign of Pisces. He hasn't been here for 2 years, and he's going to segue into his lap swim on the 22nd, 23rd of February. It really depends on where you live, and be there until April the 30th. In today's video, we're going to cover how that influences you based on your rising sign. You can also listen for your sun sign and your moon sign. Sun can be about father figures, purpose and career. Moon, body, safety, home needs, and mother figures. But certainly the rising sign is all about the character you're here to play in the simulation of matrix of life. All right, now here's the thing. This is something that's going to take on a different energy than normal. Even though this happens every 2 years that Mars moves through Pisces, it's not that unusual. And we'll talk about this cycle. This is a time where he's going to go into the sign of Pisces while being the Lord of the eclipse of April the 8th, the one who rules that eclipse in his home sign of Aries. That brings a different flavor to what he's up to. And the second thing that makes this kind of unusual is back in the very last part of January, Mars became visible in our sky. This is called his heliacal rise. He became visible in the sign of Capricorn. And a lot of what he does over the next 2 years is governed by what Saturn wishes him to do, because he rose in the sign that belongs to Saturn, which is Capricorn. And he's exalted or given VIP treatment by Lord Saturn. So he's very superpowered. He's not Clark Kent. He's Superman. When did he last rise in Capricorn in our lifetimes? 1977, January. And this is an influence that runs over a 2-year window. So everything Mars is up to is flavored by the place where he became visible. So we're going to talk about how that works for your sky as well, because this transit from the 22nd or 23rd of February through to April the 30th has a tonal quality that nobody here has had in their lives since 1977 and 1978. If you're old enough, you might want to go back to those years when Mars was active and where he was also going through Pisces. I'll delineate that as we get deeper into this video, just so you can look back in time and maybe make some comparisons. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm going to also just briefly touch on world events. That's going to take me maybe 15 minutes at the beginning. If you don't like that kind of mundane or world event astrology, don't worry. There are timestamps and there are chapters. Click the title of this video or click the timestamps that pin to the top of the comments by me and my assistant. However, you cannot jump ahead to your sign in timestamps within the first 2 hours after this airs as a live premiere. It takes YouTube and its system up to 2 hours to synchronize the timestamps after a premiere. Okay, just so you know, it's not me, it's YouTube. So we're going to talk about the last time you guys saw, and I'm going to show you the chart, Mars rising 77, 78 in the sign of Capricorn, but also what time in that energy field was Mars moving through Pisces. I'm also going to tell you when the last time Mars moved through Pisces as well, so you can go back and look at that in your comparison zone, because by understanding the past, you understand the future. Hey, by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I forgot. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac and the whole sign house system. I love the fixed stars and minor asteroids. It's my goal here to help you time your best life using astrology as a navigational tool. But if you want to learn how to do that yourself, Sky Reader, my class, is on its 5th time being taught, starting in mid-April. The enrollment is not open yet, but there is a link below in this video to get on the wait list for early bird discounts and notification that the enrollment cart has opened. And Sky Reader is really all about timing your best life using 3 or 4 tools of astrological timing that are relatively simple. But I teach you the basics of astrology as well. And we have live classes every week. We have replays, of course, that is housed in my teaching site that you have forever access to, weekly Q&As, and a Facebook group. Okay, so it's very high touch. If you really want some attention from me, but you need help, my assistant and I can be of help supporting you to learn some astrology. Alrighty, so let's get rolling and let's talk about how this looks in terms of history, the world, and then you and your sign. By the way, if you're new to my channel and this is the first time you're here, welcome. Just give me a like and a subscribe and try me out. And if you like the stuff I'm up to, then please support the channel. And I appreciate that. And all my regulars, welcome back. All right. So what I want to say about Mars is the cyclical nature of astrology is what you need to pay attention to. I don't know why a lot of YouTube channels just give you these kind of like weather reports. It's raining today. It's cloudy. It's sunny. There's a hurricane in the astrological sky, but they don't really want to or take time to relate it to what's happened before, because these planets are on rhythmic return cycles called synodic cycles. And when they're connecting with another planet, it's synodic cycle stuff. And this is a particularly important turning point for all of us as well, because not only is Mars in charge of the eclipses, the Aries part of the eclipse cycle right now that's begun since last year. First eclipse is Aries in April of last year, 2023. This eclipse cycle winds down in March of 2025. But he's also risen in Capricorn, which we haven't seen, as I said, since 1977. And that includes 78 and 79, his 2-year influence. And so I want to make those comparisons. And the third thing is that Saturn is sitting in Pisces, which it only does every 30 odd years. And so the last time Mars was in Pisces, meeting with Saturn, which will be happening around the 10th of April, we also experienced a very different energy as well as just every 2 years what he does when he's in Pisces. So let's contextualize it, shall we? I'll give you some dates. If you want to go back to March the 20th to April the 28th, again, March the 20th to April 28th, 1977, if you were old enough to remember, this was Mars moving through the sign of Pisces shortly after his heliacal rise in Capricorn. So there will be things in your life that are very similar to that frame of time in your life, vis-a-vis the Capricorn part of your sky and the Pisces part of your sky. Second of all, the next major thing I want you to be aware of is that last time Mars was in Pisces, period, was April the 15th of 2022 to May the 25th of 2022. So just the saying that is to say, oh yeah, mid-April of 22 to May 25th of 22 was the last time he went lap swimming in Pisces. So things that happen now can be similar regarding the Pisces part of your natal real estate that happened then. Now, when he comes to meet with Saturn, which he's going to do again, this is a rare event once every 30 odd years, he's going to do that on April 10th. I think it's around 14 degrees of the sign of Pisces. I'll double check as we look at the chart together. But the last time he did a Saturn rendezvous in the sign of Pisces is worth us noting, because he's not going to do this again until 2054. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I'm going to be here by then. So I think have to be, well, could I be here? I'd be in my 90s. So you're gonna really want to take advantage of this interesting, rare time that we're in. So he meets with Saturn, the constraint restriction. Mars happens to be the planet of bold action, decisions, and change. And the two of them have completely differing agendas. Now, to be realistic here, think about it. He does meet with Saturn every 2 years in some sign, right? That's not the issue. This is a 2-year event. Mars, Saturn, Mars, Saturn, Mars, Saturn. What's unusual is, of course, he's in Mars, Saturn, and Pisces. And the last time the Pisces part of the chart was activated with a Mars-Saturn conjunction were these following dates. That would have been March of 1996 and March of 1994. In both those timeframes, we had Saturn moving through Pisces, March of 1994 and March of 1996. And to go back further, it was February of 1966. So some of us weren't even born, right? So February 66, March of both 1994 and 1996, you experienced Mars with Saturn in Pisces. So you might want to go back and reflect on those ages and times of your life if it is relevant. Now, here we have the April of 2024 event, not coming back again until 2054 in the sign of Pisces. Okay, so there's some qualities of cyclical stories that I want you to be conscious of as we look at the sky together. Now, for your sign, I'm going to focus on a particular time frame as we go through the sky. And what is that? Because the Mars conjunction with Saturn and ruling that eclipse of April 8th is so important, I'm doing a whole video on that. It's way too much heavyweight content to put into this one overview video. So I'm not going to do that. But we also, in this particular video today, will be focusing on this aspect that's forming in the sky. Now, It is a time around April 1st. Everybody get ready. April 1st, right? April Fool's Day is on April Fool's Day that Mars will form an opposition to the goddess of marriage and commitments and square Athena, the goddess of strategy and victory, especially in war situations. And I will talk about that in terms of the world, but I'll also bring that up in terms of your sign, sun, moon, and rising. There are some glorious things that Mars will do, particularly around April the 18th. When on April the 18th, he is going to come into a sextile to Uranus. And that is also a sextile to Jupiter, because both Uranus and Jupiter on the 18th of April will be in the 21st degree of the sign of Taurus. And this is a flow and a sextile, and it's going to be around the 21st that perfection between Jupiter and Uranus happens. So Mars is getting in on the big event, the biggest transit of 2024. I did a whole video on this in my 2024 big transit playlist. It's a game changer to see Jupiter and Uranus coming together in Pisces. Okay, it's huge energy. We saw it last in 1941. So Mars is chiming in a positive way while he is swimming through the Pisces Sea, all right, looking over at that conjunction that's forming and lending a hand. And so we will do a whole video on that that's separate as well. Now, also one more thing. You can see that Venus, the goddess of peace, love, beauty, and harmony, exalted, is sitting in Pisces. However, besieged between malefics, Mars, and Saturn. But she does release herself from besiegement, which means war and ceasefires and peace are not happening. She gets out of besiegement after her March the 21st conjunction to Saturn. And moving beyond March 21st, if we are to see any kind of real reconciliation in world events that involve homeless, displaced people, disadvantaged people, migrant peoples, evacuated peoples, war and peace matters. I'm talking Pisces themes. We're likely to see more of that available in the world after the 21st of March. Now, I am recording this video for you, just so you know, for my Patreon community earlier than you get it on YouTube land. I'm recording this on March the 18th. So keep that in mind. They're getting this early access ad-free content, plus 1 to 3 meetings with me a month, plus anyone who joins gets 2 free courses right now. It's Synastry, Are You My Person? And Chiron, the Key to Purpose for free as gifts for trying me out. And you can always unsubscribe anytime. So let's keep going. You'll notice that Mars, before he ingresses or moves into the sign of Pisces on the 22nd, 23rd, depending on time zone, is tracking with the asteroid Fortuna. Fortuna has to do with the fates and the fortunes. Really, it's like, you know, what goes up must come down, the spinners of fate. It can be fortune and misfortune. It's kind of like the fickle finger of fortune, right? Or fickle finger of fate. So he's traveling with that asteroid. Now, I want you to watch what happens here, all right? I want you to watch him cross over the border, and you can see that he jumps over Fortuna, but she's not done with him. She will follow him in. He's jumping in there on the 22nd around 8:20 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daily Time now, and adjust for your time zone. For many of you in Europe, it'll be on the 23rd in the wee hours. And as he moves forward, she catches up. So there's something very cool about that, because she won't give up on him. So what kind of fortune and fated circumstances are trying to unfold around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of the month of March? Now, he is, you know, literally neutrally placed. He doesn't have dignity here, but he is watched over by Jupiter. Jupiter is witnessing him because Jupiter watches Mars enter with Fortuna in what? In what? In the house that belongs to Jupiter. So Jupiter has an investment with a house guest. You know, you want your house guest to follow your rules and not trash the place. So Jupiter's like looking at what Mars is up to, making sure Mars is a good boy here. Venus, exalted, is keeping tabs on Mars so that Mars doesn't go off the rails and cause like conflict or water wars, right? Mars and water, fighting over resources, fighting over water, calamitous events involving water, guns and gunboats on water, water threats, etc. That's a Mars thing, especially, you know, Saturn here as well. But I want to say Venus is here as an exalted benefic with Saturn. And there's a potential for there to be some control. See, Venus is exalted and gets VIP treatment in Jupiter's house. So he's got his VIP guests, Venus traveling here, and then he's got his gnarly Mars, unruly guest. And between the VIP house guest and him, they're keeping Mars under control. However, on April the 5th, Venus will leave. April the 5th, Venus will leave the sign of Pisces and no longer be able to contain Mars. And around the 9th and 10th, Mars comes into that conjunction with Saturn. And that can be a very difficult transit, and we will cover that in a separate video. So I would expect if there's any chance for a ceasefire or peace agreement in conflicts right now in the world, what we'll be able to see is Venus being able to bring it between the 21st of March and April the 5th. But once she leaves, she's no longer able to orchestrate solutions regarding peace. And so maybe temporary ceasefires may fall apart potentially sometime after April the 5th. Sadly, it may be so. Now, also, I want to mention one more thing. Juno's hanging out here, right? She's the goddess of committed love and marriage, but also money, moneta, coinage. And she is opposing an exalted Venus. Now, exalted Venus can be a lot to do with, especially things to do with crypto markets with Uranus here. So crypto markets, exalted Venus, hyperactively over the top, and flowing to the crypto markets, which is why crypto is on the rise as I speak, since Venus entered exaltation as the goddess of money, flowing to the crypto version of money, Uranus, Jupiter. It's all very inflated. Like I think Bitcoin just went over 70,000, but she is having some difficulty with moneta. So there's a potential that Juno in her iteration as the goddess of coin or coinage, opposite Venus, could be bringing some kind of halt to some of the crypto intensity that we are seeing. Maybe yes, maybe no. Particularly, possibly a little earlier, we may see some backtracking on crypto markets sometime, I don't know, probably the 15th of March to about the 25th of March already. And some of that may be ongoing. I'm not paying too much attention. But this is a marriage goddess and Venus is a love goddess. And so you're having tension between committed love stories and Venus exalted. She wants to put the brakes on something here, right? Saturn, slow it down. Is this lasting, enduring, solid love? If not, what are we going to do? Are we going to uncommit to that love relationship? Add the 25th of March lunar eclipse in Libra, which is a sign of one-on-one relationships. And it doubles down on themes of some relationship breakages being very obviously happening in our lives during the time frame, perhaps, of March 15th to the 25th or so. Let's keep going. I want to show you the sky and then we'll do your sign. Now watch what Mars is doing, please, as he continues moving forward. The one that we're talking about for you guys today is the big T square in the sky for your sign, as well as the general themes of what it means to have Mars moving through the sign of Pisces every 2 years. Reminding you, he hasn't been in Pisces with Saturn co-present here since March of 94 and March of 95, and before then, February of 1966. So a lot of us don't have memories of those times, but if you do, you might find this is a rinse and repeat theme. So here we have Mars making this T-square to the strategic god of victory in war, courage in war, victory in battle, but also just the idea of being strategic, right? And we have strategic connected to commitments, but Juno connect like peace treaty stuff, right? How to commit to an agreement like a ceasefire or a cessation of hostilities or something like that. So let's go ahead and do that for the world and then for your sign. Let's start with the world and then we'll move to all signs iteration. Now, once a gentle reminder, once again, in all of your all signs iterations, I will remind us all that basically Mars's heliacal rise at 27 or so degrees of Capricorn sets in motion a tonal quality of how Mars operates in obedience to Saturn, right? In obedience to Saturn that he hasn't been doing since 1977 to through 1979, and particularly March 20th of 77 to April 28th of 1977, when he was also in the sign of Pisces. So we want to keep that in mind, alrighty? Now, let's go for the world and then for you. All right, let's do both. First, the world stuff. Alrighty, guys. I'm world. Is anyone else world and war weary right now? with the destitution, the famine crisis, and this forced starvation going on in Gaza. So basically, the watery part of the sky is really lopsided, as you might notice. Everything is happening here. Pisces is heavily weighted. And this is an indication of a lot of things to do with themes of water. And this is Circe, the witch, who could turn men into, she turned men, Odysseus's men, into swine and herd them off a cliff. She's a spellcaster. She's a witch. She's a psychic. She's the intuitive, witchy ways that we can be here in the world. She's magical, right? I just find it interesting that sorcery energy or witchy energy is very active during this T-square. I'm not sure what that means. If you have any ideas in the comments, you might want to let me know. Is that occultists working behind the scenes to mitigate war problems? You never know. But here we have this T-square, and it is happening, as I said, around April the 1st, and you'll feel it maybe 2 days or 3 days before April 1st and 2 to 3 days after April 1st. The world may see this as a crunchy moment in time where there is a big attempt to secure some kind of treaty or agreement around war. And don't forget, Venus leaves on April the 5th, so she's still helping out here, right? She's still working her magic. Mars has to bow to Saturn because he rose in Saturn's house. So there's also something going on here. And I should add Asteroid America and the asteroid Israel. I can't put Israel in here, but Israel's tracking with Asteroid America right now. This software doesn't give me the asteroid Israel. So let's just put Asteroid America in here for the mundane astrology, which is about world events. So there we go. Click and add, and we'll go back to the chart. I haven't been tracking Asteroid Israel, although it was very active during the onset of the Hamas incursion into Israel, for the very reason my software doesn't use it and I have to toggle software. So just be aware that my understanding is Asteroid Israel is tracking with Asteroid America through Capricorn. And of course, shoulder to shoulder, no red lines, right? But Asteroid America is also in a square to the 23-degree Libra ascendant of the nation of Israel, indicating the square can bring hardship and disagreement between the nation of America and the nation of Israel. As you can see, at this time of April the 1st, it is past the most harsh square to Israel's ascendant. So the nation of Israel is out of harmony in some way with the United States of America. You're going to see that to be true somewhere, obviously true to you, March the 21st. We can even go back a little bit. There we go. Between about March the 18th or 19th. Don't forget, Venus is besieged by malefic Saturn and Mars, and she can't bring any healing or hope yet on terms of long-term sustainable peace. So that's not happening. But Mars is building the asteroid America at 20 degrees on March 19th is building up toward a square to the 23-degree ascendant of the nation of Israel. And as you watch me go through this sky, we can see that around this time here, it could indicate that America as a nation is deeply at odds with, and publicly at odds perhaps with, because this is the house of the public in Aries ingress, that America may be speaking out against what is going on and maybe making demands for some kind of peace settlement. Because squaring Libra, where there will be an eclipse on the 25th, Asteroid America is squaring the Libra eclipse, righty, that happens on the 25th of March at 5 degrees of Libra. It's a broad square. And therefore, there's an indication here that there is tension in the sky, and it's looking like America is a part of a turnaround story, most active around, if it's going to be precise, maybe the 26th, 27th, and 28th of March, kind of a come to Jesus or an ultimatum or something like that, I would imagine. Well, who knows? We'll see. Because Asteroid America wants to make an agreement, a contract, a vow about something to do with the world events that we're seeing unfold. And if I was to show you when that was most accurate, when was Asteroid America flowing to Juno? Because, well, Juno is a marriage goddess. It's about what agreements you vow to keep, right? Like a treaty. And you can see that Asteroid America on March the 5th was flowing to the goddess of treaties, March the 4th and 5th. If you're in the comments and you remember, what was Joe Biden doing on March the 4th and the 5th regarding the calamity in the Middle East? Or what was the United States doing around the calamity in the Middle East? What kind of proclamations for a attempt to bring peace were ongoing at that time? Maybe you guys will remember, but probably something significant. All right. All right. Anything else about world events? The United States is a Sagittarius rising. Netanyahu is a Sagittarius rising. I think Netanyahu has his ascendant at 9 degrees Sag, and Joe Biden is as a Sagittarius rising. So Biden, Netanyahu, and the United States are a part of the strategic victory goddess war, Athena, in the sky here. And so as Minerva / Athena, she will attempt to be strategic in a three-dimensional chess playing way about the word winning and victory in war, but she's having to deal up the difficulties of a need for a vow, a contract, or agreement that Venus would like to bring in as a peace treaty, and Mars is saying, I'll have to follow the rules of whom? Saturn and an exalted Venus and Jupiter, right? Jupiter has dominion over Mars. He's already contracted to help Saturn because he rose in his Capricorn house. Now, hey guys, who's in the Capricorn house where Mars rose? Asteroid America and Ceres, the goddess of agriculture and harvests and growing things, but she can also represent a sickle that cuts and ends something. To bottom line it here, before we do your sign, I feel like what we're seeing in the sky as the April 1st timeframe is emerging, with Venus's position still squarely supportive and helpful in the sign of Pisces with Saturn, is that April 1st is like a turning point around the war stories. April 1st, April 2nd, maybe a day before or 2 days after. This is the T-square we're going to talk about for every single sign and how it may play out in your individual lives. Alrighty. Let's go through the signs one by one. Let me change the chart to another type of chart. Give me a sec. I just want to make it a whole sign house system on my software. And the reason I want to do that is so I can move the chart forward easily into hour by hour delineation. So let's take it back a day as well to position ourselves, and let's go. Let's roll. We're starting with the Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising people. Now, I'm not going to repeat everything I said in the beginning, but understand the rarity is taking you back to 1994 and 1995. I'm sorry, 1994 March and 1996 March, when Saturn was with when Mars was moving through Pisces with Saturn, and also back to 77. Please, everybody, listen to the beginning of the video to understand the larger cycles here. So if you have Mars moving through your 12th house as an Aries, Sun, Moon, especially rising, you might be very busy doing backroom deals and negotiations or working on things with great passion and dedication, ardor, and discipline, but you're very impatient and anxious to get stuff done that you need to do outside the view of the rest of the world. You could be, writing a book and planning a new website, doing something that is not visible to the world, and that will give you drive, passion, dedication, and perseverance, and maybe a bit of frustration. Key element can be when Saturn and Mars come together is some frustration as you try to get a lot of things done. Thank God for exalted Venus supporting you until April the 5th. Mars will be here, of course, March the 20th, righty? No, February the 22nd, 23rd to April the 30th. These 6 weeks of Mars moving through this part of your chart also can indicate that you might be really focused on cutting, ending, and severing addictions and self-undoing bad habits and patterns. It might be rather hard to do that until April the 5th because Venus loves her pleasures here, and she's hooking up with addictions god Neptune. So some of you Aries trying to cleanse and clear your diet might be better served to wait until April the 5th. But Mars is here with his scissors, and they're pretty sharp, and he's willing to cut through the emotional, sensitive moksha waters here and let you get rid of that bad habit, self-sabotaging addiction pattern or habit. If you make revenue in foreign places with borderless income, Venus is exalting that income for you and rising it up to a new level. Saturn's giving you the stability you need to go the distance. Some of this revenue may have felt really hard while Venus was besieged, but by the 21st of March, the revenue stream is increasing, and with Mars's cooperation, right? Which with he's there, you're really driving passionately to, let's say, sometime between March the 21st and April 5th, ratchet up revenue you generate from foreign lands and foreign shores. For me, it's probably opening my Skywriter card. I'm an Aries sun and moon, and that's just going to be a lot of money coming in, hopefully a lot, from international sources as people enroll for the course. Where are we going to go here is this gnarly T-square energy that really drives home something around April the 1st, a day or two or three on either side. What is this critical juncture that you're coming to where you may have to break an agreement or a vow with a rental contract, with a debtor situation, with a landlord, with a tenant? This is Juno, with a work situation, and you want to maybe cut away from that situation. At the same time, you're engaging in an intense level of strategic thinking or strategic planning in order to do that effectively. Athena is in a Dharma house, following your true path, being in alignment with your true purpose. Certainly, I can see this as some of you also hiring a lawyer, Athena lawyer in the ninth house, to help you make that cut. If you need to get a visa for foreign travel and foreign lands or foreign short adventures, that is also very much what could be strategically under wraps for you April 1st, a few days after, a few days before and after. I kind of like the fact that Athena is sitting in the ninth house here because it's flowing to all of the Aries people. So the strategic strategies you're using work. They're aligning perfectly. But you might break a contract or a vow with some kind of situation and to do with your work, daily work and health matters. So look for that. Classically, when I see Juno here, it can often be a vow or an agreement that has to do with two things: rental properties and tenancies, but also in your case, money that you owe to a credit card or a bank, or tax money, because Mars opposite rules your house of those chunky money things. And you may be doing a kind of strategic advisory role about the legal matters regarding taxes and chunky money, and changing course to break the way you were going to do it, the plan that you had, and do something different. All right, and you could quit a job with this, because Ceres at the top of the sky, Juno, you may quit a job, or if you're employed, you may quit a job. Pretty strongly indicated that you could do that strategically with great results, but you may quit a job sometime around April 1st if some of you Aries are in work mode, or quit a contract with somebody that is involved in your work. Oh, yeah, this is the classic software that refuses to. Come on, guys who make Astro Gold for Mac, you've got to fix this. I've been seeing this for years. I changed the house system. I'm just going to randomly change it to anything else. And it never holds when you change the house system to whole sign houses. You have to like do a runaround. It's very weird and very frustrating. All right, so back to the story of what's going on here. If you are a Taurus, you've got the movement of Saturn for 6 weeks, February 22nd, 23rd to April 30th, moving through your 11th house of good spirit. And generally every 2 years, this is going to likely feel like changes going on with friendship groups and circles. Sometimes he cuts and ends friends that you no longer need, groups of belonging that don't work for you, especially if those friends are overly indulgent in addictive or alcoholic endeavors. And Mars is like snip, snip, cut, cut. But when he's here also, he can change your direction or passions about the way you wish to have career gains happen, and even help you reform new long-range motivational plans for your greatest goals in life, particularly in work and career. You'll often see fights with friends and also exiting and quitting groups of belonging. Like you realize that you hate the chess club and you're quitting, So you can quit those groups of belonging, and you can also have arguments with friends that are pretty intense. Now, I said in the beginning, go back to March of 96, March of 94, when you last saw Mars moving through Pisces with Saturn co-present. But of course, this did already happen just simply April 15th of 22 to May the 25th of 2022. And this is an energy for you then where you're looking at what needs to be snipped or what is being snipped. Elder sibling, one above you, can belong to the 11th house, and that could lead to conflict with an elder sibling. So be careful for that. But this Mars is also in a sextile to your identity where you have lucky Jupiter. And for the most part, especially as we move towards the 21st of the month, of April, you're getting some superior luck and some really lucky breaks coming through changes in your work and job stories. We'll get to that in a separate video. I think that with this T-square forming here and Mars having to honor Saturn because he rose in his house, you may be looking at some things going on for you around April 1st, give or take a couple of days on either side, where you need to break a commitment or a vow or an agreement with a child, with a lover, with a creative or business situation, entrepreneurial or creative situation, where you might come into intensity around April 1st and think you might need to break out of an agreement that you made, especially if it involves joint and shared resources or money. Certainly it can be breaking out of an agreement with a child or a love romantic partner, and you're no longer wanting to keep that financial commitment around the money that you strategically are sharing. Shared resources is very much about that 8th house. So there's probably somebody else's money that you have an agreement about, and you're needing to cut out or make a change in your agreement. Maybe using your intuition, maybe feeling like the fates and fortunes are smiling upon you as you do so. Mars was rising in the 9th house of father figures and legal matters. And as that is in play for the next 2 years, from this January of 23, add 2 years, 2 more years, this energy suggests that also Mars wants to honor things that happen in your 9th house. And there may be some strategic decisions you're making around academic things as well. Academia, academic things, and some changes in that area of your life. But with Ceres here, some of you are just completing something to do with academic stories as well. Mars can bring you favors from friends in high places, and you're lucky as hell with Jupiter going through your house. The kinds of friends that give you lucky breaks here, especially after Venus leaves her besiegement on around the 21st of March, that probably what we're seeing here is you having some friends who are your champions, like, you know, I champion you, like I'm your champion for what you're up to, and really giving you some kind of support regarding foreign land travel, academics, and things to do as well with shared monies with another person. Just remember, when Mars is in your 11th house, things that are left cut away, like friends and groups of belonging that don't serve you, are totally meant to be, especially with Fortuna here. Don't resist that. You may have some frustration, though. You want to get passionately fun and have some fun through to April 5th with your friends and get engaged in fun things that are hardly active with your friends, and you can't. The besiegement of Venus till 21st suggests it's difficult. After the 21st to April the 5th, then getting down with friends and having fun looks way more likely. All right, Gemini. This is an every 2-year event. Last seen, Mars moving through Pisces in your 10th house of career and reputation. Last witnessed by you back in the day, April of 22 to May of 2020. April 15th of 22 to May 25th of 2022, but not with co-presence of Saturn since 1994 and 1996, the month of March. So it's all back again in those repeating cycles. And Mars up here wants you to end, quit, sever, and cut. But he also can make you driven, passionate, and purposeful. So one side of this is working your ass off, but you're feeling frustrated by it because when Saturn and Mars get together, Mars is a gas pedal, Saturn's a brake. So there can be some significant frustrations as you're trying to do a lot in your work and career space. I have a progressed Gemini sun, so I get it. And you're having that sense of ambition met by caution and exhaustion. So you may feel that this is like, oh my God, I certainly would say that you could hit a wall in your career energetically when Mars and Saturn come together April 9th and 10th. I mean, that could feel like you just hit the wall on something. But with Venus exalted up here and out of besiegement between the 21st and April the 5th, 21st of March and April the 5th, then the energy is much better for you. So look for a sense of popularity, appeal, and good things rolling, the good times roll in your career between March 21st and April 5th. But then it is on April the 10th that Mars hits the wall. So some of you may be tempted to quit something, to cut something dramatically. You know, you just realize you get sensible, serious, and sober-minded about what you need to cut out. Now, hey, I've been talking forever, but I'm not seeing clients anymore. Yes, I have clients through to the end of May, but I'm not booking anyone June, July, and August. And I may open some select spots September through December because I need to do that. So that's the snippy scissors for my own well-being and to write my Deep Code Astrology book. That's the snippy scissors of Mars cutting what is not needed in the career space. So keep that in mind. There may be a pivotal turning point around April 10th. We'll do a separate video on that. Now, the other thing I would mention here is that there is a strategic moment in a T-square where you're trying to be strategic around your marriage partnerships, business partnerships, and client audience outreach as it pertains to your career and reputation. While at the same time, you may be tempted to cut or sever or end and break a vow, or agreement, or contract with a property situation, a rental situation, or somebody that you live with that you've made some agreements with. Because Juno down here is saying, well, we have a vow. Mars rules your house of rentals. And so it could be for some of you a breaking of a rental agreement, but you're doing it strategically and for very good reason if this does occur. If this does occur, we're talking about April 1st, a few days before and a few days after. You're honoring Saturn because you rose in his house. Mars is honoring Saturn because he rose in Saturn's house at the end of January. That's eighth house matters. A lot of what Saturn wants to do is really figure out what changes you need to make in your shared resource with another, tax structures, and chunky money. And so you're really focused on those themes, including lawyers and strategy around assets that you may need to share in case of a divorce or separation, and some turning points that are really critical for you in that narrative around April 1st, give or take a day or two on either side. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. You have this story every 2 years, and last was seen with Mars moving through Pisces back in April of 22 to May of 22. Now we're back again, but in a way that we haven't seen since 1996 and 1994 in the months of March, when we saw Mars moving through Pisces with Saturn here. So you want to compare those time frames to what's happening here, as Mars is going to cut, end, and sever academic situations, higher learning situations, things to do with third marriages, things to do with visas and law agreements. Mars up here can be going to bat for you in a legal setting, trying to fight the good fight, or trying to get you to plan or take a trip, especially one abroad. And that's true, as of course, when he's up here from March the 20th to, February the 22nd to April the 30th. So you look like you're really going for it here. Maybe some of you will plan a trip because Saturn would be the planner and Mars would be the action taker, but you're feeling some frustration around that, right? Because Mars, Saturn together are frustration energy. Also, maybe some frustration in things to do with academic stuff as well, or book publishing, if that's your cup of tea. Now, I think that you're going to look at that T-square, and you're going to notice that you need to maybe cut, end, and sever some agreements around educational settings, siblings, younger especially, local matters to do with neighbors and neighborhood. And you may cut and sever from a legal standpoint too. It sounds like the NIMBY thing, you put up a gnome on your lawn and they're like, no, it's against the code. So you might have some neighborly battles and breaking agreements with neighbors, younger siblings, or anything to do with your local neighborhood and the daily life that you live in your neighborhood. But we have strategy here, and you're being strategic from the sixth house. So this definitely can involve matters to do, sixth house matters to do with money and debts, to do with pets, and to do with rentals. Now, could you be strategically trying to break agreements about your pet running amok in the neighborhood? Or is it something to do with strategic agreements regarding rental situations? It could be all of that. Mars rules your house of children, and there's a possibility that some of this tension we're seeing has to do with the breaking of agreements with an adult child, or even just a child, if they're old enough to have an agreement with you, and you're looking at strategic ways to work it out. I do think that as well, Mars is honoring Saturn in the house of agreements and contracts and legal agreements, because that's where the rising of Mars was. If you're married and Mars rises, as he did last seen in 1977 in your seventh house, it's between 77 and 79 that some of you may end your marriages or find them ending, but also maybe separation from each other physically for some reason, maybe travel, I don't know. So there's that energy that Mars is a part of. So this can be like long distance travel apart from a marriage partner or spouse or a significant love story. Also long distance travel that connects you to the potential of a deeper spiritual impulse, because an exalted Venus with Neptune is looking for an ashram, and Mars goes, let's go to the spa, the ashram, let's have a spiritual getaway. And I think that once April 10th comes and goes, when Mars hits a wall and moves on, then you could strategically plan such a getaway. Hey, Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Lori's going to go for a chocolate break, and she promises to not forget to start at the right place. Okay, hit the like button, subscribe. And if you're in the live premiere, you know the drill. Do all of the above. Let's get back to work. That was chocolate with almonds. Oh my God, that was so good. Okay, guys. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Basically, here we go. Mars is moving through your 8th house of chunky money, money that you do not earn. This is happening between February 22, 23 through to April the 30th. This happens on the regular every 2 years. You last saw this same transit April the 15th of 2022 to May 25th of 2022. So what's new about it, of course, is Saturn. Saturn is here, and we last saw that in March of 94 and March of 96. I've got a lot of different flavors, right? A lot of cycles and cycles and cycles. So Mars is very good at cutting things off and cutting them away. And this could look like a lot of ending around, you might pay off a debt, you might end an investment you have, you might, like change your tax structures, you might move in a new direction around money, but you can battle about money. And this could be fighting with others, your significant other, or over an inheritance, especially with Saturn here. If it could be a grandparent inheritance, but there's definitely money fights and battles that can happen with money you share with another, fighting against the bank, the mortgage company, the credit card debtor thingy, fighting with your spouse. So you want to watch for that tendency for Mars to go to battle. He is trying to honor Saturn, who owns your house of debts and indebtedness. So he will be trying to eliminate debts for you if you hold debt during his 6-week transit, because he did rise in the 6th house of debts and indebtedness. This is also, he owns a house of real estate and maybe contracting for a new rental property for you during his transit through the 8th house that you can afford by looking at some investments and maybe being able to parlay the money, or even getting some money from an inheritance that allows you to form a new rental contract agreement. You will note when he's going through here that he's got Venus watching over him until April the 5th, bringing some very positive money stories to bear in your chart. But then when she leaves April the 5th, I wouldn't be too risk-taking on investments, especially because Mars will hit a wall of frustration around April the 10th. Therefore, between February 22nd and April the 5th is the best time for investment strategies and outcomes in that way in your chart. There's a T-square forming here, and we have to pay attention to what is this about. It's coming up around April 1st, give or take a day on either side. Mars is in an objection, Your Honor, to something that Juno wants to do in the house of earnings. Now, I always see Juno, when this happens, quite often looking like a new job. You're going to sign a contract for a new job. She's a vow, an agreement you're going to keep. I hope you're not to quit on your new job. And it's warm here. And this looks like maybe you are going to want to break an agreement regarding earnings and job and work and stuff like that. And if that's the case, you're doing it for financial reasons. Something about the job and the money story, it needs a break. Time to break. Ultimately, when you get to the 21st of the month of April, you're going to have a money job breakthrough. So no worries if you want to leave something before then, around April the 1st. T-square to Athena, how can you be strategic around situations to do with finances and your children, finances and a romantic love partner, or money and an entrepreneurial business? So you're looking at strategic changes you want to make around April the 1st. Juno here could be an agreement or a commitment of some kind that you make verbally to someone else, by the way, that you're breaking, not necessarily a sign on the dotted line legal a contract, just to be aware of that. And you might just decide to cut out and break away from that. I think that with Saturn here, the frustration with the shared resources with another, because Saturn rules your marriage house, can definitely look for some of you like you're tired of the money problems with the monies you share with your spouse or significant committed love partner. And there may be some, or business partner, some real intensity around April 1st about those money stories. Okay, you might be strategically trying to end a situation with shared resources with a romantic partner. All right, let's keep moving. This girl is determined to finish before her client. Okay, it's my Monday. I'm recording this for my Patreon. It's my priority time sessions with people. And even those I'm getting, like, I realize I'm doing too much work these days. All right, moving on. I doth complain to my audience. I apologize. Um, Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You want to go back to the last time Mars moved through Pisces. Maybe you can feel some of the vibe and try to remember what was happening in that transit that occurred April the 15th of 2022 to May 25th of that year. It's back again, but not with Saturn. Saturn was last here in March of 1994 and 1996 with Mars. So spring of 94 and spring of 96 are similar to the vibe here. You're looking at Mars in the house of your significant relationship partner. Simply, that usually means separation, time apart, or endings and cutting. They may have the sword and they may be moving away from you, literally geographically on a trip, or they may be arguing with you. Certainly, this transit tends to lend itself towards disagreements and arguments and fights with our significant other, often initiated by them. So keep that in mind. So it's not the most romantically positive time for you, February 22nd to April 30th. That said, Venus is exalted and she's doing soulmate love here in your seventh house, and she is there with Neptune all the way through until April the 5th. Therefore, you may be feeling quite dreamy and madly in love with someone, or they with you, but then the spell can break on April the 5th when Venus slides into the eighth house. And therefore, this dreamy vibe will not be true from April the 5th through to April 30th. And that's when you can have the most difficulty in a significant marriage or business partnership. There's a hard wall, coming on April 10th when Mars crashes into Saturn. And that could look like your partner's frustration in the relationship with you or something going on in their own life. And after that frustration wall is breached on April the 10th, Mars continues to move forward. But don't forget, he doesn't have support from Venus. Mars is trying to honor the fifth house. This is where he rose. This is romantic love and sexuality, children, fertility, entrepreneurial business. And he would like to increase romantic passion, perhaps, in a significant relationship. But he's just as willing to fight the relationship to its death to end it, because he's opposing the goddess of commitment in the house of you. Now, you make a vow to stick with someone or not. You are the one holding the sacred commitment. You're the enduring one who may have stayed past its due date. You're the one thinking, should I stay or go? And because Juno's retrograde right now, you're really thinking over decisions you've already thought about before. And a lot of you are looking at that business alliance or that marriage partnership or that client relationship and thinking, is it for me? Am I going to stay or go? Or is this going to last? And I don't know what this looks like on April 1st, give or take 2 days on either side, but you're in a crunchy, critical turning point. Mars is opposing Juno, and there is a square to strategic Athena in the house of home and property that can literally look like tension in the home about the relationship and critical turning points around this, whether this union is going to continue to be cohabitational, for example. Saturn's involved, of course, by being in your seventh house, and he rules your house of rentals. So there may be potentially some breakage in a relationship around a rental property, or in general, just real estate in general. And I would say that even though that's true, Mars is going to open up a really good patch of time for you around close to the 21st of April, that could indicate a glorious breakthrough for you, including in opportunities to rent a property. But I'm just saying there's a lot of home-based domestic tension in a significant relationship appearing for many of you around April Fool's Day. And, some of this tension can come maybe a bit through your relationships with your children, just because Mars rose in the house of your children, and there may be some tension with some children as well, but you will work that out because it flows to the house of children as well to the house of romantic love. It's just this opposition, this very marriage and significant business partner crisis energy in a domestic environment picking up around April 1st. Watch out for that. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is all about Mars moving through your sixth house of rental property, pets, tenancy agreements, debts, indebtedness, work and job. Okay, health and health routines. When Mars is here, somebody can quit in the workplace, So let's go through the dates. He's here February 22nd to April 30th, but he was also here before April 15th of 2022 to May of 2025, May 25th, 2022. So back then in April to May of 2022. Did you quit a job? Did you change a job? Did someone quit in the workplace? Because that's the vibe here. You may have done all of those things. And this time you're doing it again. Here we go, rinse, repeat. But because Saturn's here, I really want you to go back, if you're old enough, to 1994 and 1996 in the spring of those years, because this Mars transit was also here. So this is going to look like good things are happening. Exaltation in the work and health and house routine. Beautiful health with your pets, beautiful rental opportunities and developments are happening. And Venus is here until April 5th, and that's all true until April the 5th. But when she leaves, that's not true. So the best juice for rentals, pets, and tenancies and new jobs and change of jobs is when she's still here, exalting your sixth house. So look for those opportunities between February 22nd and April the 5th. After that, it doesn't happen anymore. And then Mars bumps into a hard stop April the 10th, hits a wall with Saturn. This could be real frustration in your work and health situations. For work situations, it looks like the boss quits or you quit, or the boss quits you, or somebody wants to just quit the whole thing. Secondly, on April 1st, there is that T-square. And that T-square is like, where do you need to break an agreement or vow strategically connected to your neighbors, your neighborhood? There's the rental agreements, perhaps, things to do with online things and trips and travel, maybe professional travel agreements breaking. And Juno, the goddess of commitment in the house of far off foreign shores. Maybe you have a travel agreement to go to a foreign shore. It's time to break it. Maybe you need to break it for work matters, right? So Saturn rules your fourth house of property. He's in the house of tenancies, and a lot of this can look like a change of neighborhood strategically with a new rental property. But in other ways, it could also be changing your agreements regarding journeys and trips, especially for situations that have to do with your professional life. And you may also want to radically improve your health, but by breaking an agreement or a vow in the house of addictions and self-undoing, doing it strategically. You could also be working with a turning point with your health as it applies to things you ingest and put in your mouth. Maybe you had an agreement to yourself that you would start a cleanse, but you had a date on it. Now you'll break that healthy agreement to make it a sooner thing. So many ways it can work out. Mars here, injuries to pets and accidents with pets, especially around April 10th. Please be careful about your pet. Keep your pet indoors, basically. All right, this girl's going to grab some water. I'm not even going to stop the video because I'm dehydrating. Okay, let's roll. All right, Scorpios, Mars is your ruler, as it is for Aries people. So it's a very big deal, whatever he does, right? And when he's moving through the sign of Pisces, he's flowing back at you. You actually enjoy this. This is good for you, as it is for Cancers, by the way, in general. And so as he's flowing through your fifth house, looking back over his shoulder favorably at you, he's doing this February 22nd to April the 30th. But again, he's also doing this like he did last time, right? April 15th of 2022 through to May 25th of that year. So this is back again. And the quality of having Saturn co-present last happened, as I mentioned earlier, in March of 94 and March of 96. You might want to compare those time zones. We do astrology to compare cycles and make sense of our lives. This is going to be an incredible amount of drive, passion, and ambition around romantic love, sexuality, fun, play, pleasure, athleticism, maybe even a drive to take swimming lessons, maybe even a drive to take up Tai Chi or some flowing martial arts, maybe a drive around things that are creative or entrepreneurial. Mars here can be very, very powerful as he gets things going for you. However, you can cut, end, and sever relationships with children. They move out of the home, for example, or you cut and end and sever with a romantic love partner. If you're not having more passion with a romantic love partner, you can also end with a romantic love partner or come into deep conflict with them. This is going to be a time, however, where Venus is exalting your creativity, exalting your art. My son is Scorpio rising, and he just put up some really great shit on TikTok. I hope TikTok doesn't get shut down. He's put so much great content out there. And honestly, he's a musician. This is like Your art is coming to a highest form right now. Exalted Venus with Neptune. This is lovely. And Venus is helping you with your artistic, creative, procreative. It's a fertility transit in that way. Energy all the way through to April 5th, and then she's leaving. So therefore, February 22nd to April 5th, you have a lot of passion around creativity, love, romance, and sexuality. If you meet somebody under this, by the way, it can be a long-lasting, enduring relationship full of great passion. It's not a bad combination to have a new beginning with a new relationship with this particular stellium here through to April the 5th. Now, you're coming into a story where Mars' intention on April the 1st, give or take a few days, right? With Athena in the house of earnings, possessions, and resources. Often it's just our paycheck house. And this is sometimes legal and lawyerly, but it's also strategic in what you want to do, as you might need to also break an agreement with a colleague, coworker, a situation in your workplace, and maybe even an agreement you've made to a friend. It can also look like she's the goddess of marriage in the 11th house, making a change about an agreement, a financial situation to do with love, romance, and marriage, and breaking some agreement strategically. Okay. Someone proposed to you and you changed your mind or something like that. Oh, I hope not. It's not that intense. And I would say to you, because Mars rose in your third house, online world, social media, neighbors, neighborhood. This is a very important part of your sky over the next couple of years. He wants to honor that house and he wants to honor what Saturn has him do. So there could be some kind of attempt here in this transit of Mars to make a change of neighborhood, maybe move your home to a new neighborhood that is going to give you greater play, joy, and pleasure and satisfaction, as those words belong to the 5th house. Certainly, however, when Mars is here, the last thing I would say is that you want to be careful not to have a blowout with your children or your significant love partner, and watch for that April 10th hard wall. When Mars hits that place, it could be a real critical turning point and very difficult without Venus's help, where you might have a really intense, difficult conversation or a blowout with that child or with that romantic partner, maybe over money agreements around April the 10th. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Yes, here we have the every 2-year transit of Mars through the sign of Pisces in your 4th house of homeland, property, real estate, domestic life, the mother, childhood matters, etc., homeland. This is happening February 22nd to April 30th, but you did see this before back in April 15th of 2022 to May 25th of that year. However, with Saturn co-present, you got to go all the way back to March of 1994 and March of 1996 to compare notes. Certainly, Mars likes to cut, end, and sever, and sometimes it means you're going to change, cut away, and sever your home. Often, like an expat exile signature in people's natal charts, some of you may will travel extensively to far off foreign shores, Scorpio, far, far away from home, but also maybe want to cut out of a homeland and move to another homeland. And the impetus for that could be very strong because Saturn is a different vibe here, and he's looking for your legacy lasting home. And you may be feeling where you live is a hardship and you don't feel really happy. Maybe you're alone, home alone, unhappy at home. And Mars is wanting to make changes. When Mars is here, though, he's cooperating with an exalted Venus conjunct soulmate Neptune. And that makes for a good vibe in your 4th house. Until Venus leaves there on April 5th, that is true. And therefore, if there is going to be conflict or tension with domestic environment and people you're living with, or situations that feel hard at home, it's not really true until perhaps after April 5th through to April 30th. Well, Venus is still there. When Mars is great for construction, renovation, and home renovation projects, beautifying the home or staging the home. There's a lot going on here for some of you. Sagittarius is where you may want to rent a property out during this transit to Mars. And that has a lot to do with Jupiter, Uranus in your 5th house, 6th house, or rent a new property and do so successfully. Mars rose in your 2nd house of earnings, and as Sagittarius is over the next 2 years, you're changing your earning strategy and you're cutting away possessions, maybe selling things you don't want or need, and increasing your financial well-being. And as that's true, Mars in his journey through your 4th house flows back to the 2nd house and wants you to definitely end, sever, and cut something. This can definitely be letting go of possessions you don't need and maybe taking possession of the money from them, including maybe a home, selling a home, but it also can mean a change in earning strategies by things you are engineering to do in your work and home space, maybe working from home, and coming up with new ways to do that in the 6 weeks that are, that this transit is about. And then gnarly April 1st, what agreements do you need to break with people involved in your career and reputation space? You need to cut away, end, and break something, and you're doing it with the mind of a strategic lawyer. You're really thinking about how to be victorious in breaking a vow or agreement connected to a work setting. That's what it looks like to me already. So keep that in mind. And that's around April 1st, give or take a few days. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. You have this long transit of 6 weeks here, almost February 22nd to April 30th, through your third house of siblings, local neighborhood, neighbors, short distance travel. Mars loves to travel, especially road trips when he's in the third house. So you'll be doing a bit of travel. But you can fly as well, the friendly skies. As he's moving through this part of your chart, that travel may happen, as I said, February 23rd to April 30th. But another feature here is you may have arguments with a sibling, a neighbor, fights with people in the local environment, extended family disagreements as well. So be cautious for that. And the last time you traveled through this part of your sky was April 15th of 2022 to May the 25th of that year. So there may be similarities to what you were doing then and the themes I've itemized as well. You can consider that the last time he was here with Saturn was 1994 and 1996, the merry month of March. And you may have had some of those challenges as well back then. Certainly, he's going to hit a hard stop when he hits Saturn on April the 10th, and that could be a frustration or a collapse of a travel plan. So that looks like an April 10th possibility, not a probability. You may need to make a vow break with somebody as well. On April 1st, you might be breaking a vow with a legal situation, a third marriage partner, a vow or agreement with a book publisher, a vow or agreement with the academic setting. You want to make a cut, break, end around those things. And at the same time, you're using deep strategy coming from the 12th house. This looks like consulting people for guidance in backroom ways, getting guidance from people behind the scenes about what you might want to do here. If you need to break a trip or travel opportunity, it looks like it's to a foreign land as well, not domestic travel. So there may be a breakage in a foreign land travel opportunity or trip that you're having to cut out of around April 1st, give or take a couple of days on either side. All right. There's so much goodness in here, though, when we get further down the pipeline. So definitely stay tuned for other stuff around April 21st in one of my later videos. Mars is trying to honor Capricorn. That's where he rose. You're rising in success and direction in the next 2 years. So as he's cutting away something in the third house, he also says, I'm doing the cutting, like quit that trip so that you can be more successful. All right. So whatever is happening, don't worry. It's all good for you. Hey, I'm one of you, Aquarius, sun, moon, I'm a rising. We are on the story of a money story. Now, here we have Mars moving through our earnings and possessions house, and he last moved through here April the 15th of 2022 to May the 25th of 2022. Can you time travel back and see what kinds of changes and new directions you made in your earnings and possessions or in the dietary style that you were following? It can often also look like a change of dietary style, cutting away foods that are no longer good for you or substances that are no longer good for you. As I try to remember my April 15th of 22 to May the 25th of 22, and what the heck I was up to. I was working my ass off, which I have to add to that. But, working your ass off, working hard to make money is also the same feature of this story. And I probably did a dietary cleanse at the same time. This is different, though, because we haven't. So this is happening February 22nd to April 30th this year. Changes in money, changes in diet style, changes in earnings, passion and drive around earnings. Okay, you got it, right? But we last saw him here with Saturn, who's making us very serious and stable and long-range planning and structured around our earnings and money and savings, right? Because Saturn's been there since last year and will be there to 2026. Mars is saying something like, he said this to us, by the way, in March of 1994 and March of 1996. And I was restructuring my earnings then because he was with Saturn then and going from one career path to a new one, right? From my journalism career essentially into my psychic readings career. So Mars was helping me make the changes needed with Saturn, the new structure for earnings. So ask yourself where you need to have a structure and earnings change during the 6 weeks ahead. Venus is exalting the second house of food. You want your pleasures, and she's exalting the house of money. So you're doing well financially all the way through until April 5th when she leaves, making it much more difficult for you to cut out something like I'm trying to do when my wine liver's middle way is not a fail, but it's not where I want it to be. And that's because exalted Venus loves her pleasures in the house of what we put in our mouth. So keep that in mind. It's a good time for dental work until April 5th, though. Mars and Venus together mean successful dental work, especially for beautification, also for facial work and rejuvenation. But nonetheless, once she gets out of there April 5th onward, then there's a intense energy without her support. So looking for April 5th to April 30th, a lot of intensity and passion and drive around either successfully quitting a food style or a substance that goes in your mouth, or getting your structures in place to passionately drive for more earnings. There's a hard wall April the 10th when Mars smashes into Saturn, and that's where frustration hits a peak for you April 10th around money and earning stories, and you may just want to quit your job or quit working so hard. Mars rules your 10th house. This too shall pass, but look for excessive intensity at that time. The T-square that we're looking at is on April the 1st, give or take a day on either side. And we're looking at wanting to break an agreement or a vow or a contract with a bank, with a mortgage company, with an accountant. Maybe that'll make me changing my stream and hiring a new accountant. So this is around April 1st. And you can also look at this Juno as like what agreements and vows you need to break to do with shared money with a business or love partner, as you do that strategically in service of greater gains and rewards in your career. So there's a money break, cut away energy somehow coming through the sky around April 1st, give or take a few days. I want to incorporate, I want to break away from an old accountant. Perhaps this is all of that, for example, using me as an Aquarius rising. And Mars wants to honor this 12th house where he was rising. It's good for 2 years of greater enlightenment, right? Not seen since 77 to 79. 2 years of greater success around foreign shores, foreign lands, even moving to another country or traveling extensively to them and making money from foreign places and foreign borderless income. That's the rising place for Aquarius is over the next 2 years. But as Mars is in the earnings house, he keeps thinking, yeah, I rose in Saturn's 12th house. What am I going to do? So some of these strategic structures around changing in your earnings and possessions can involve the word foreign countries and foreign lands. Like, just keep that in mind. So you can't really compare it completely to 1977, 78, 79, right? Because that was just when Mars, that's the influence of the Capricorn rising energy. But you could compare it to March 20th to April 28th of 1977. If you're old enough, what changes did you do in your earnings that had to do with far off places and foreign shores? Or what changes do you make with addictions and food styles? Did you join AA back in March and April of 1977? I was too young for that to have any meaning, I think, but I have a feeling if I remember back, I quit alcohol for one whole year of my life. And was that in 77? I think it was. Let me think about that. 62, 72. That's pretty close to back then. Might be that one. Because I just wanted to get, super clean. I was so young, but maybe it wasn't that. That could have been something else. When you're a young teenager, some of these things are less meaningful. Finally, we're moving forward. And we're moving to I remember what I did. I went to Mexico City on a field trip with my Spanish teacher. First time I'd been in another foreign land and culture. I loved it. I loved it. I always thought, oh my God, I'll never stop traveling. So this could be indicating a lot of strategic reasons to travel in service of greater earnings and career success for some of us Aquarians. Now, here we have the first but always best, last and never least. Yeah, Pisces. Now, don't forget it's happening in the house of you, so it is very personal and you're experiencing the sword in your hand. Okay, we Aquarians had the sword in our hand of the last 6 weeks before this. So February 22nd to April 30th, you are decisive, you're action taking, and you're sword bearing. You are being a Martian being in a swimming pool. So you've got your shark fins on in the swimming pool and your floaty toy, and you're being very aggressive, Jaws, Boom, 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 boom. So you're being very much like that energy of a shark. This will mean you are also pointing a sword, a shark fin, February 22nd, April 30th, at your significant love partner. And there can be significant tension with your marriage partner or business partner as a result of that, especially as we move towards that critical April 1st timeframe where Mars is opposing Juno, the marriage goddess in the marriage house, legal contracts, agreements, marriage partners, business partners, and in a T-square to a strategic victory goddess, Athena, in the house of your reputation. And you may have a strategic shift in a relationship of great importance that is also about highlighting your significant status in the world, how people see you, your reputation. Unfortunately, this could be my reputation as I'm married, now I'm divorced. I mean, it can be a real change in this area around April 1st, give or take a few days on either side. I would encourage you to use it or lose it. Venus is exalted until April the 5th in the house of your identity. You are beautiful, persuasive, charming, and charismatic. You are dreamy and likable, and you want to use that energy. And you lose it after April the 5th. But when Mars is here, your passion, drive, ambition, and decisions are met with an exalted presence that people really want to connect with you and want to serve you and help you. It's great energy for you. And Mars will also say, I'm going to have a hard stop. I'm going to crash into Lord Saturn around April the 10th. This is you being frustrated as all hell, maybe pulling your hair out as something you want to do and take action on is meeting some kind of resistance or stall, or like you're in the swimming pool lap swimming and all of a sudden you hit a barrier, hopefully not a hard one, like a floaty toy that's in your way, and it disrupts your movement forward. So look for that disruption on April the 10th. I mean, Saturn rose in your 11th house of good spirit, bringing you good things from an elder sibling, friends as allies and benefactors, and greater earnings and gains from your career. That's your Pisces story over the next 2 years. So when Mars is doing something here, whatever he's cutting away from and cutting out of your life because you decide you no longer want it, it will serve a greater rise in all of the good things that the 11th house can bring you over the next 2 years, particularly in career success. But this can look like a separation or ending in a significant long-term love relationship. You're doing it strategically, I'll give you that. I mean, you're making strategic choices here. But it can look like with lawyerly Athena in the top of the sky, a filing for divorce. Mars is the ruler here of your ninth house. This is a house of legal matters and courts. And again, that does bring home the idea that perhaps some of you are looking at situations where you may be inclined to file for a separation or divorce in a significant love relationship. I would not start a new relationship under this energy for sure. Just be aware of that. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. I appreciate all of you, especially all of my regulars. See you guys in the next video, which will be an update on the Libra eclipse, and my all signs videos are coming out as well on the weekend, which will be something like March the 24th, as well as a updated eclipse video to talk more about this Libra eclipse and some other factors in the chart around the time, including the Saros cycle, the fact it's in a bundle, and how it intersects with the charts of Joe Biden, Netanyahu, and the United States and Israel. We'll be doing that deeper dive eclipse chart that I haven't really covered the way I like in my first eclipse video, which is doing really well, so go check it out. It's at 30,000 views or 33,000 views or 30, it's going up, and that eclipse video covers in-depth your sign as well. So check my playlist. I'll link the eclipse video underneath the video as well. That's for the Libra eclipse of March the 25th. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.